When we come back, Dr. Janine Hubbard on that CMA Journal report on Canadian obesity and what might be behind it. Back with Janine in a moment. How fitting that the commercial for Mike's great show, The Wall Show, was a lead into this, because yesterday I flagged this. Today we're going to dig into it a little bit deeper. This is the fact that the new research published by the Canadian Medical Association Journal on Monday found that 32.7% of Canadians were obese in 2023, an increase of about 8 points since 2009, but researchers saw a steeper increase in obesity during the COVID-19 pandemic. What stood out for me among all of the data here is a quote by a Dr. Sean Wharton, who is at the Wharton Medical School. He says this: there was isolation and depression. People who were living with depression, their depression may have gotten worse, and that's where we saw people having an increase in their weight. To talk about this from a mental health and wellness perspective and to give her always wise insights, glad to have our friend Dr. Janine Hubbard with us. Janine, how you doing?
Oh, happy to chat.
Yeah, I guess, Janine, when you saw this yesterday, were you surprised, particularly with the link that the CMAJ is making to weight gain that happened during the pandemic, and the fact that depression and isolation and all of the things that combined that were so tough on our mental health and wellness impacted our physical well-being?
Honestly, not at all. I do note that their study just noted the increase. They didn't actually look to the reasons behind it, but they certainly suggested a few. And I would definitely agree that, well, we know there's an association between mental health issues and some of our weight and wellness and health issues. In particular, what we saw during COVID, at least early days, is, listen, we all have our short-term coping strategies, right?
Yes.
You've had a really rough week, you've had a really rough day, whatever. You have some junk food, you maybe have, an extra glass of wine, whatever it is that is kind of your go-to vice. The issue was that started to become no longer a short-term acute coping strategy. It became a longer-term, or when we finally were saying, okay, wait, we can't keep functioning like this, then we'd have another outbreak, or there'd be more news, or there'd be something else. Not to mention the fact that lots of people were at home wearing comfy pants or no pants. I joke a little bit about it, but no, it's true. And what we were seeing, the other thing is, even if you think about just the practicalities of running in and grabbing something in the grocery store, listen, we might have a restaurant here in town that made take-home pizza kits that were really easy to pop in with almost no contact versus going into a grocery store and looking through, the produce aisles. And, I mean, we were doing as fast and in and out to get groceries, and people certainly started to rely a lot more on things like fast food and delivery.
One of the things that also set off, I don't want to say alarm bells, but a red flag was raised is this, and I'll read from it. Over the 15-year study period and during the pandemic, the greatest increase in obesity was in young adults between the ages of 18 to 39 years old. Why a red flag went up for me, and I suspect you deal with this in your practice. I remember the lead into 18 and sort of 18 to 20, it depends, male and female, it's different, but then, there's body image issues. There's issues often around anorexia nervosa and the like that are creeping in. And then you have this. I mean, how much work and challenge does that create for you on the mental health and wellness side when you see these obesity rates going up? Because it, gets into how people identify and how they try and address the way they identify. It is so complex.
Oh, there's no question. And, I mean, we did also see a vast increase in things like eating disorders during the pandemic. We also saw people no longer being able to do their regular exercise, both for the physical activity piece, but also for the stress regulation that came out. The other thing that wasn't mentioned, but I think is vital, is we saw a lot of disrupted sleep. We saw a lot of insomnia, and there are very strong links between disrupted sleep, insomnia and weight gain. So this is why I was saying I wasn't surprised when I kind of heard it, because there are so many of that perfect storm of factors, not to mention the not necessarily socializing as much. We did see increases, and I think continue to see persistent anxiety and depression and social isolation that hasn't totally, resolved.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about it, the impact of the pandemic on us on multiple levels. Our physical well-being, our economic well-being, our community networks. I maybe to ask you for a comment on this. Is there something you can take out of this study and others about resiliency? Because we always talk about the need to be resilient. Was it even possible to be resilient during the pandemic because we didn't know where it was going? I mean, is there a point of responsibility for us in here that we're not talking about?
Oh, really good question. And I think resiliency, just in general, looks different for every person on
point.
Every day. There were some people for whom, being able to just barely get by, and with the multitasking of the homeschooling of the kids and trying to do all the chores and still trying to hold down a job, getting your hair washed that morning, that might have been the resiliency that, because I think it really did tax on an awful lot of multiple levels on all of us. And the other thing that we talk a little bit about is our cortisol levels.
Yes.
You know what? I mean, that's a chronic long-term, I still describe it as it's like driving your car with underinflated tires. Even if you're not immediately feeling the effect, you haven't had like a flat tire, but it wears and tears on all of us.
Indeed it does. Appreciate your time as always, Janine, helping us unpack these things, because you see the data and it's good to get behind or try and understand what's behind it all. Thank you for being with us as always.
Anytime. Thanks, Tim.
All right, that is Dr. Janine Hubbard talking about that study from the Canadian Medical Association Journal.